Welcome Charter Board members and school leaders. The topic of this mini-course is conducting Charter Board elections. Would you like to learn more about how to conduct Charter Board elections in compliance with the law? Would you like resources shared by another charter school? This mini-course may help you. In this mini-course, you will review the law, learn ideas, get resources, test your knowledge, and receive a certificate of completion. When reviewing the law, ideas, and resources, think about how you might help your board conduct board elections. Let's start by reviewing the law. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 1, states the initial board serves until an election is held for the ongoing board of directors, according to the school's articles and bylaws. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 2, states the initial board must begin the transition to the ongoing board structure by the end of the first year of operation. The board structure must be identified in the school's bylaws to be a majority of teachers, a majority of parents, or a majority of community members, or have no clear majority. The law further states that the initial board must complete the transition to the ongoing board structure by the end of the second year of operation. Furthermore, according to Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 2, all board terms shall begin on July 1st and be for 2 or more years. The law also requires that board elections be held during the school year, but not on days when the school is closed. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 5, requires the board to notify eligible voters of the election dates and voting procedures at least 30 days before the election. The board must also post the election dates and voting procedures on the school's website. The law also requires the board to notify eligible voters of the candidates' names, biographies, and candidate statements at least 10 calendar days before the election. The board must also post the candidates' names, biographies, and candidate statements on the school's website. Staff members employed at the school, all members of the board of directors, and all parents or legal guardians of children enrolled in the school are eligible voters. If a board seat is vacated before the end of the term, the bylaws typically allow for the board to appoint a qualified member to fill the seat until the end of the term. In order to conduct effective and compliant board elections, it is important to understand who can serve on the board. According to Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 3, the ongoing charter school board of directors shall have at least 5 members. The board members must not be related parties. According to Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 3, the board shall include a licensed teacher. The teacher must be employed by the school or provide at least 720 hours of service under a contract between the charter school and a teacher cooperative. The teacher must also be serving as a teacher of record in a field in which the individual has a field license, or providing services to students the individual is licensed to provide. The teacher must not serve in an administrative or supervisory capacity for more than 240 hours in a school calendar year. The law also states that the board shall also include at least one parent or legal guardian of a student enrolled in the charter school who is not an employee of the charter school. Finally, The law states that the board shall include at least one interested community member. The community member must reside in Minnesota, must not have a child enrolled in the school, and must not be an employee of the charter school. To summarize, what are some important considerations when conducting charter board elections? To conduct board member elections, a board must understand the school's bylaws, board structure and composition, and applicable law. It must be clear whether the board structure is a majority of teachers, a majority of parents, or a majority of community members, or have no clear majority. It must be clear whether the election is for a parent, teacher, or community member, and how many of each. In addition to understanding board structure and who can serve on the board, it is important to understand the many statutes that aim to prevent conflicts of interest. Knowing who is ineligible to serve on a charter board will eliminate the issue of having to remove a board member after elections. For example, Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 3, states that no charter school employees shall serve on the board other than qualified teachers. An individual is also prohibited from serving as a board member if an immediate family member is an employee of the school. Next, let's look at some ideas that charter boards have shared to help conduct board elections. Maintain information on term start and end dates in an ongoing and consistent way to help plan for upcoming board elections. Stagger term lengths to prevent the possibility of all board member seats being vacated at the same time. Adopt clear board election policy and procedures and follow them transparently to develop trust in the board election process. Develop a process for soliciting nominations and recruiting candidates, perhaps by nominating and recruiting candidates from among board committee members. Use your board self-assessment to identify needed experience and expertise, and then recruit candidates who meet those needs. When recruiting candidates, provide information to all potential candidates on real and perceived conflict of interest and applicable law. Require candidates to sign assurances that they have read the law and have no real or perceived conflict of interest in serving on the board, or, if there's a potential conflict, to disclose it in writing. Following are questions that you may want to ask to help your board conduct board elections. What does the school's election policy say, and is it in alignment with applicable law? According to the board's bylaws, what is the board structure, and how many teachers, parents, and community members serve on the board? When will the next election be conducted, and will it be for teachers, parents, or community members? Are terms staggered, and if so, how? How will candidates be recruited? Who will ensure the required information is posted on the website by the deadlines? What is the best method for conducting the election that will result in the greatest participation among eligible voters? Now that you have reviewed the law, learned ideas from other charter boards, and considered questions, let's take a look at ways you can support success. By understanding your board structure and composition, you can help prevent having to remove someone who is not eligible to serve on the board. By understanding the laws that aim to prevent conflicts of interest, you can help prevent someone who has a prohibited conflict of interest from being elected. By helping the board meet the requirements, you can help build trust and maintain positive relations. In conclusion, here are some potential next steps. Understand the board structure and terms, and verify that the board is in compliance with the bylaws. Examine the school's election policy and procedures to make sure they are in alignment with the bylaws and applicable law. Recruit board candidates that meet eligibility requirements and board needs. Ensure that the board posts the required information on the website by the deadlines and that elections are held only on days that the school is in session. Compare board election policies and procedures from other charter schools with those of your school to gain and share ideas. Contribute your ideas, tools, and solutions to help other charter schools conduct board elections. Information in this video is not intended to address specific questions or issues a particular school may be facing. Charter schools should work with their authorizer, financial service provider, auditor, lawyer, and staff to address any specific issues. We hope this information is helpful in conducting effective and compliant charter board elections.